Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about what I like to call back pocket functions. And these are just kind of base functions that you'll want to keep handy or in your back pocket for when, just so you can recognize their graphs and what their equation looks like, because in a few videos kind of down the road we'll learn how to shift these functions and these graphs and how that manipulates their equation. Maybe they stretch or they shrink or, but it's good to be familiar with the base function. So we'll just go over those real quick, and I have a few tricks for remembering them. So let's get to it. First, we've got the basic constant function. So no matter what you plug in for x, you're always going to get your value c, or whatever number or whatever the constant is. Whatever input you plug in, you're always going to get that same output. And the way I like to remember this is you just connect the t's, constant, and it's going to be a horizontal line like that. Next one is the identity function. So this one is the x and y are the same. It's got a slope or a slope of 1, so it goes up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Anyway, so this is the identity function, and I like to think of it as just a side or a diagonal I. You can even do this if you want for identity. So there's those. And then we've got the absolute value function. And this one's super fun because it's just a v, and you've got absolute value v right there. And then we've got the quadratic function. This one follows kind of the same pattern as the v. We've got a u here, and this whole quadratic equation looks like a giant u. So now with these functions, we've got the cubic one. I actually haven't come up with any clever way to remember it, so maybe just remember it. No, just kidding. I mean, we've got a little squiggly line. Maybe that makes you think of a 3. I don't know. But this is our cubic function. It does that cool little swirly. I mean, you can actually reason through it. If you think about 1, let's say 1 is here. 1 cubed is just 1. But as you go and increase your x values, because they're cubed, their outputs, like 3, its output is 27. So their outputs just keep getting taller and taller. So that's one way you can think of it. Anyway, we've also got a reciprocal, which this one, the biggest problem with this one is you can't divide by 0. And so at 0, the line just dodges it. It's like, nope, we are not dealing with 0. And how you can know which quadrant these are in is you look at these inputs here, all of these negative inputs. Well, if you plug in any negative number for x, you're going to get a negative fraction out. So you've got your negative inputs, and so you've got your negative outputs. So they're in this quadrant here because you've got your negative inputs, negative outputs here. Same thing here. If you plug in any positive number, you're just going to get a positive fraction. And so that's why it's in this positive quadrant with your positive inputs and your positive outputs. So that's the reciprocal function. Then we come to the square root function. This one I think of as it kind of looks like a square root itself. So that's how I remember this graph. And then we've got the cube root. Again, it's like the cubic function. I don't have any fancy way of remembering it, but the cube root is literally just this guy flipped and rotated or whatever. So these guys are buddies. They're just inverses of each other. And yeah, that's the cube root function. So that was pretty brief, just going over some basic functions that you'll want to be familiar with, because then we'll learn how to stretch them and translate them in future videos. So next up, we'll go over some examples. I've got a lot lined up and kind of a good variety, so hopefully any other questions you have we'll be able to cover. Anyway, go ahead and hop over to the next video. Thanks for watching.